All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of the O'Shea Vlogcast. I am your host, O'Shea Duke Jackson. Today, I have no need to have an introduction to this particular channel. A moderator, a good buddy of mine. He's an inspiration to me personally, and me getting my yellow fever card to take a journey over to Africa. I will actually be there in Africa from the 6th to the 15th, I believe on the 5th. That is none other than Junk Pile Video. And he has a great topic suggested that could be a little controversial depending on what your experience is. But we're talking about how to date an African woman and should you date an African woman. And we're going to listen to his experience today. What up, JPV?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you, bro?
You know, I'm doing pretty well, man. As always, thank you for coming. It's always a pleasure to have you. I guess what I want to know is, you know, you've been here talking about your travels previously. What got you so interested in Africa in the first place?
Definitely, it was the women. You know, it was just the women. Now, it wasn't like seeing photos of them or anything like that. It was just a curiosity of dating. You know, I've already been dating black women all my life, but, you know, when it was time for me to get married, didn't want to marry the American. Nobody's talking about African women at all. So that's what got me curious. So that's what got me to dig. And it took like 3 weeks to find a website to actually find a place where a lot of women hang out and you can experience, you know, interactions with them. Because one thing I didn't do is I didn't look in Spokane where I was living at the time. I didn't check for the local population at all. It didn't even come to mind. But, you know, I don't regret that. So, but anyway, I found what I needed. Went for it.
Let's talk about the local population of which you lived, and you were living in Tacoma, right? Like in Seattle, close to that area?
Spokane, Washington, on the border of Idaho.
Spokane, okay, so that is pretty far from Seattle. Now, I've heard that there are a lot of like East Africans, Ethiopians in that area. What Africans were there in Washington that you came across or knew about?
Well, starting in Spokane, the majority there were a lot of refugees from like Burundi, Rwanda, South Sudan, and there was a very small Kenyan community. There was a lot of Kenyans not too far away in Pullman, Washington, where the state university is. So when they graduated from there, if they didn't move over to Seattle, if they're going to stay in Washington, some of them moved to Spokane. So gradually, the Spokane Kenyan population has been growing. As far back as I know is 2006. It was around 100. Right now, there's a few hundred Kenyans there. And most of the Kenyans that live in the state of Washington is Federal Way, which is about, I don't know, of Seattle, something like that.
Okay, so in Federal Way, Washington. Now, what got you to, how did you find this particular site?
Okay, so here's the hard part. You know, you put in the typical keywords on Google search, Yahoo search that you think you're going to find the site that you need. African women, it was always African American, African American, African American. So I had to really dig for some different types of keywords. And I actually had to go to like some of these expat websites to finally find a website called Afrointroductions with an S.com, which is an Australian site, and almost everybody there is African that are looking to date, whether it's somebody in Africa or somebody in the diaspora.
Okay. Now, with your experience, once you started to, you know, kind of get your feet wet with this particular site, how long did it take you to meet somebody? And everybody's coming in. I see it now. What's up, Sweet Speaks? How long did it take you to actually get in contact with some people that you figure you would basically want to talk to?
Well, basically, it takes a little while to set up your profile. They have about 10 steps that you have to go through. I mean, you really can't go through with your profile without a photo anymore, because I kind of checked it out today to see what's changed. But you know, you got to set up basically what you're looking for, up your photo, your location, things of that nature, and you can look at all the profiles that you want to, but you can't really speak to the women unless you get a gold account. I don't know if they still call it a gold account, but you're going to pay a little bit of money, so that way you get unlimited access to these women for a gold account. You know,
Okay.
so yeah.
So it's kind of like Tinder Plus, where you decide you want to purchase Tinder Plus and you get access to all these. Fair enough. Okay, so you started chatting with women online. What was your experience talking to these women online versus maybe the experience you had with talking to women online or in person in the States?
Well, basically, I got the sense of that they're more caring in general for men. Like they actually pay attention to what you're saying. And it's not one of those situations, well, just because he's American, or he's from the UK, I'm going to go ahead and pay attention to him. No, basically what it is, there's a lot more women in Africa than there are men. And it's like that in a lot of countries. So these women are very cultural and they want to be married. So when they go to a site like this, they really don't want their time wasted. And there's a lot of time wasters that go there and just mess with the ladies and, tell them, oh yeah, I'll be there, in 3 months and never show up and all that type of stuff. So basically they want to find a husband that's going to be serious. Great conversations with these people. You don't have to talk about sex right off and all that stuff because they'll bring that conversation up themselves.
Interesting. Let me do this. And once again, I want to give a shout out. Big Willie, thank you for the $5 donation. Appreciate you, Big Willie. I'm enjoying the video. Appreciate you. My man, wake the hell up. Great content, Doc. Ask Jay Junk Pal, what was his favorite place full of joy? What was his favorite place, I guess, in Africa, and enjoy your first trip in the Libby, Doc. Thank you so much. Wake the hell up. Okay, so you were talking to this, and we'll ask his question right after this. So you get this impression that the women are more interested. They have a little bit more culture value. Now, let me try to stump you real quick. I know you're a very bright guy. I probably can't do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to try it anyway, right? I have to. Because we're going to have some naysayers out there like, hey, you sound like a pretty bright American. You're savvy. So, of course, she's going to look at you as an opportunity. She's going to be more catering to you. You've probably told her, whatever your job skill is, what you do for a living. Of course, she's going to be submissive. She's in a third world country. She's looking to get over here. What would your response be to somebody who has that mindset?
I'd say shut the fuck up, get a passport, and go over. Find out for yourself. Plain and simple. And if you want to get a little more experience before you actually buy a plane ticket, do it online. Get some experience with the females that you're interested in, or what these other guys are talking about. What's the big deal? What's the hype? You need to find that out. You can do that at afrointroductions.com. Just pay a little bit of money. It's cheaper than a plane ticket. Otherwise, shut the fuck up.
Okay. And once again, thank you, Big Willie. The interviews are very informative. Okay, appreciate you, bro. Let's kind of go to some situations because I know you actually, and shout out to my man Rick Thompson, Moita C. Thank you guys for supporting. Okay, so you're talking to a few young ladies on this particular website. Now, I know eventually at the end of the road, you get married to an extremely attractive Kenyan woman. But let's kind of go through some of the roads that it took you to get there. Let's talk about a few relationships with people that you met online.
Okay.
Let's kind of go from the first chick you met, where she was from, and why it didn't work out with those ladies. That way, the reason we want to do this is because we want to give adding the fuel to the fire for the other guests. And once again, Gilla, I know what that's for, man. Appreciate you, Gilla, for the super chat of $25, man. Appreciate you, bro. But so let's do that if we can, JPV.
Sure. I'll start off with the women that I spoke to as far as the countries, because I had to make sure they're English speaking, was Liberia, Ghana, Nigeria, Zambia, Kenya, Ethiopia, and even Senegal. Even though it's a French speaking country, there's quite a few Senegalese that actually speak English. But the first one was actually out of Nigeria, out of Lagos, and she was a Yoruba.
Okay.
She already had a daughter that I did not know about. I had a very good talking, kind of working relationship with her mother that was in the UK in London working for some years. Her father was a kind of like a district attorney there in Lagos, so practicing lawyer. And I had a really great conversation with her, and her, among some other women. I let them all know that I'm speaking to more than one person, but this particular person, I thought, besides between her and my wife, one of them had to be the one. But because she didn't tell me she had a daughter right off, everything else I found out was true about her. She didn't tell me she had a daughter right off because a lot of African women will feel that if they tell you if they have a child, that you're not going to be interested in them. And it is a habit with a lot of African men that, they're not going to marry a woman that already has a child. She kind of thought that I was going to go in that same category, so she never gave me the chance. So basically, her mother said, if you don't tell him, and this is a Nigerian because Nigerians get a bad rap all the time, if you don't tell him that you have a daughter, I'm going to tell him. So this is the kind of relationship that I had with her mother. She was very interested in me marrying her daughter because her daughter was always talking about me, things of that nature. But, we're talking, and she was in the back of the last line of the cyber cafe where she was sitting. I saw a couple of kids, running around, and I'm like, just kind of making comments. Oh, you got a lot of kids there that day. And she goes, yeah. So her daughter was playing with some other kid in the cafe, and she said, well, that one girl you see, that's my daughter. And she had this face on her that was like so disappointed, like it was down, her hands were on top of her head, like, this is it, I'm going to lose them. You could see it in her face. Yeah, I got mad because she didn't tell me. She wasn't brave enough to tell me, and her mother even got mad at me because I eventually, just to make it short, I didn't go with her because of that one fact. Sometimes I kick myself, but I don't regret the wife that I have now. I don't regret my decision.
So, and let's kind of talk about the second chick. So they basically knew, or the woman knew, you was talking to the Yoruba chick from Nigeria. And shout out to Blackest Night, he's also Yoruba. Shout out to all my Yoruba fam out there. You guys know I love you. And then so you knew it was between the Lagos woman, or the Yoruba woman, and the Kenyan woman. They both knew that, right?
Well, no, they did not. I did. And I was speaking to some other women in between that because I let every single woman that I was speaking to, I'm going to be speaking to about 5 or 6 different women. So therefore, I had to be the one that was asking them questions indirectly to get the answers that I needed to find out where they are in the head, where they are in the heart. Basically, are they after me for a visa? Are they after me for a true relationship? Do they want to come to America? Do they not want to come to America? And you'd be surprised, a lot of them would just say, forget America, just move here. And when you get that type of response, America, it's either we'll go there or we won't. If you get that kind of response, they're not after you for a visa. And so I had some really good conversations with other women from Zambia and all these other places. But as far as the connection, it was with these two. Yeah.
Let's talk about, so I kind of want to work a little bit backwards here because I know that we have the final two and then the end story. Let's talk about some of the other connections that you made in Zambia, that you made in other parts. And once again, shout out Geo Scholar. I want to do a couple shout outs. Yardley Moist, go fuck LeBron. I hope they win. I hope Golden State win. Big Willie, thank you again. Let's talk about the Zambia, and if you want to talk about it, the other experiences that you had, and why those chicks, you didn't have the connection there. What did they do wrong, in your opinion?
They didn't do anything wrong, actually. It just got to the point where I'm talking to, a half a dozen women, and if I didn't feel a connection right away, then, I would let them off kind of softly. And also at the same time, I let every single woman know, even my wife, that if you found somebody else while we're talking and you don't want to wait, just go ahead, because I wanted to be very fair. Waste any woman's time for the simple fact I don't want no woman wasting my time.
Right.
Right. So you got to understand. I know we talk about American women, African American women, how dysfunctional the American woman is, you know, and, you know, American women have feelings, but they're really fucked up feelings for the most part. Well, you also have to think about if you're going to the areas where women are genuine, they have great moral values, they still have feelings. So my opinion, well, not my opinion, I'm just going to call it a fact. If you're going to go around fucking with some woman and saying you're going to be there within a year and you don't show up, you make all these promises to her, you never even deserve to even meet her online. So if you're gonna go and do this, you know, I'm gonna give you some information to all you guys on how to meet these women before you buy a plane ticket. Don't waste their time, because if you're one of those dudes, you don't deserve a woman like that. So.
I kind of agree. You know, we don't want to waste people's time because we don't want to have our time wasted. Let's talk about the end part. So you've decided that the Yoruba woman is not going to be the one. She loses out. Sad for her. You decide that the woman in Kenya is who you're going to be going to take serious here. Let's talk about the process, how that was, if you don't mind sharing that.
Okay, well, real quick, I just want to address Black Lion 777. I know you're a comedian, but I have no jungle fever, brother. I ain't got no damn jungle fever. Never had it, never will. That's Spike Lee's little joint.
Oh man.
Okay. Could you say that one more time, man? Because I was reading it. I'm sorry about
that. Yeah, he's an asshole, by the way. So I'm talking about the fact that so you decided that the woman from Kenya is who you're going to take more serious. What's the process like of you meeting her? How long did it take you to do that? What were the steps? Kind of take us through that process as you were going through it.
Okay, yeah, no problem. So basically, when I said, basically you're the one, and that was probably I would say February of 2006. Then I had to make the arrangements. So I was also in the process of selling my house in Spokane. So this is basically to fund the trip, the dowry that I was going to pay to the family and things of that nature. I wanted to make sure as well, well in advance. So we made it that I was going to be there in July. And we wanted a church wedding, but that was going to be impossible in that shorter time because church weddings are booked up for at least 12 months in advance. And that was pretty much everywhere. So we decided on a courthouse wedding, but we're going to do everything else traditional. When she got everything kind of set up on that side, I went and bought my ticket, I believe in April for July. So I got my ticket at least 60 days in advance. I had no idea that I was going to pay full rate because I was going to leave in the summertime. And I was even lucky to even find an opening in the summertime. That was another thing I didn't know. I'm usually, if you don't book way ahead of time, you're not getting a flight to Africa through most airlines. So in the process of getting there, we had to go to, I guess it's, or maybe a governmental building where we had the courthouse wedding. I had to sign some paperwork. Had to be sent off to Nairobi to do whatever they had to do there. Then the paperwork would be driven back to Nanyuki. And I was freaking out because it was like 7 days in advance. And I was thinking, man, what happens if there's a car wreck? The paperwork's in the ditch. You know what I mean? So, yeah, everything was fine. When I also got there a day after arriving there, I was fitted at a tailor there in Nairobi before we went to Nanyuki. And her brother took care of that. And the tailor, I didn't let him know because I'm a little bit overweight. He actually measured my stomach instead of my waist. So my pants were a little bit bigger than they needed to be. But the daishiki he made for me, I mean, everything was cool. I paid, I'm not going to say the exact amount of the dowry, but we had a meeting and everything with her uncle because her parents had passed away. It was going to go to her 3 brothers. And the uncle basically took control of the conversation of the dowry and how it works, explained to me, the traditional way and the way they do it now. And because I'm a foreigner, I wasn't going to have any connections there in Kenya on getting cattle or anything like that. So it's just.
Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
So did you hear everything I said? I
heard can you say the last part again? I heard about the dowry, but then I kind of broke up a little bit.
Oh, I was going to say the dowry is what the future husband is going to pay to the family to receive a wife from the family. Whether most of the time it's the parents, but if the parents are not there, then it's going to go to most likely the siblings.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it on that part.
Okay, let me do this. Shout out to King Demetrius, Big Willie. Thank you, man. Big Willie spending money all in this thing tonight. Let me kind of go back over some things because I mean I know in America when we decide to marry a woman, there's not necessarily a dowry, or I know that's how African customs do it. Like you must pay a certain type of thing. I know you don't want to talk about the actual price, but what type of things did the family want you to bring in exchange for the daughter's hand in marriage?
Well, just be the person that I said I was to her. So they never asked me once, or did they dig into my business about who I was as a person. They left that up to her. So, we met, it's our business. And after you're married, married couples do not talk about their business even with their parents. And my wife is very traditional about that. I mean, I've said a couple things, that I thought were like harmless, like her older brother's sons needed some shoes. The conversation is between the women, it's not between the men. With another man that was taking care of those kids, and I got kind of in trouble for it through her. So it's just something that we don't talk about. So if the man is going to pay for it, the wife is going to go to the husband, get the money, and then pay for something like that. So even though that doesn't sound like a big deal, family business.
Oh, okay, so let me ask you this. So when did you get married to her the first time you saw her?
Yes, I got married 7 days after I got there, but it was planned way ahead of time on the 14th of July, 2006.
Wow. Okay. And Captain Jack. Okay. Now I'm gonna add. Thank you, Captain Jack, for that super chat. $5. Where in East Africa does the U.S. dollar go the farthest? I think he's saying that. I'm pretty sure Tanzania or Uganda is probably where it does, but I'll let JPV answer that. But we'll come back to you, Captain Jack, in a second. So you got there. You're meeting this lady for the first time. You're going to get married. What does she look anything like the pictures? Did you Skype her before? Did you guys do all of that? I mean,
well, yeah, and part of what I'm going to give information to the men out there is that you don't want to do these types of things without making sure that it is a woman, because you do have, for example, some Nigerian men that are going to act like they're Whitney Houston and say Whitney Houston doesn't exist, but that's going to be his profile picture saying, I'm her, and try to get some money out of you. So a lot of cyber cafes do have webcams throughout Africa, but then a lot of them do not. So feel sorry for the ones that, if you're going to be that strict, don't have a webcam, you might as well just let them go. Okay. But if you really want to see the person, you want them to have a cyber cafe near them that has webcams, because most of these people don't have their own computers. They don't have their own internet where they can do that for you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So yeah, she looked everything like her photos. I didn't doubt her one bit when it came to that, but still, you want to go ahead and do that, because of some places, I've ran into situations where there's people just spinning your wheels over and over and over again. Camera 1 week, and when you get there, there's no camera. Mm-hmm. At this particular cyber cafe. Oh, or the internet went down today, but you're talking to them on the internet. the same day. You know what I mean? I mean, that's how stupid they are. You know, some of them get, you know, the scammers anyway. So yeah, you definitely want to make sure that at least at one point you're speaking to them on a webcam.
Mm-hmm. Okay, okay. Let me ask you this, and once again, shout out to my man King Demetrius. I think he's already answered the question, but this brother, Captain Jack, says, where in East Africa does the U.S. dollar go the furthest or go far?
Okay, well, I got the exchange rate up right now. So as of today, the Kenyan shilling is 103.40 shillings to the dollar. So you can basically say that's you know, $1.03 against the dollar. So let's check Uganda. The Ugandan dollar, or excuse me, the Ugandan shilling is 3,604, which is basically $36 to the US dollar. And then we'll also check Tanzania.
Okay, Tanzania, I think is 22.36.
Exactly. So about $22.
Yeah. So I think actually Uganda is probably going to be your best budget for that. So also for you brothers, man, I was talking to Junk Pal before I got on. Gave me some great advice. Actually, Junk Pal and Search for Uhuru is one of the big pushes. Actually, it's after I did my last interview with Search for Uhuru, I was kind of on the fence. I just said, fuck it, I'm going, right? I bought the ticket. So I'm going to actually vlog my experience. I'm going to vlog me at the Forex. I'm going to vlog the exchange like I did in Budapest for those who see. So we'll be able to see everything. Damn, Big Willie going crazy. Oregon passed the plate. You're having a good time. So yeah, Uganda. So I'm going to, so for example, and I want to get back to Junk Pal right now. I'm going to just share my experience so far, okay? I have here, this is my letter of intent, all right? So as you can see, ain't going to show my whole stuff on there, but this is my Ugandan authority kind of letter, okay? This is my visa letter. So once I get there, I take this to them. I give them $50 for the visa. To fly from Warsaw to Entebbe, which is outside of Kampala, round trip was $900. I'm staying in a place called Kuatale, which is outside of Natenda area, suburb of Kampala, for about $25 a night in Airbnb. So it's $228. I'm taking about few $100 cash, right? US dollars. I'm exchange. I got my burner phone, my Android Huawei. I'm not gonna take my iPhone. I'll leave that here. I'll be going with MTN or Vodafone there. And once again, all of that I'm gonna vlog for you. So you know, once you guys, you know, like come back, all that will be on the channel. And the electric outlets, which JPV is gonna talk about, the voltages, what you should bring, all that stuff. Yellow fever cards. We're gonna talk to you about that. Let me get back to JPV. So you see her. How was the, you know, I know when you're talking to somebody online, it could be a lot different, right?
Exactly.
But when you meet them though, it could be, you know, it could be a little different. How was the chemistry in person when you met her?
I'm going to say it's exactly the same, except for the simple fact that because she was physically there and she ran up and hugged me, and it was in front of everybody, of course. It wasn't a sense of fear, but it was like a sense of why is everybody staring at me? This is going to be my future wife. You know what I mean? It just felt good. You know, it felt like the love was already there because you already been talking to her for like 8 months before you even got there. You already knew what to expect, but when you're there, it's I don't know. It's like 3D. It's this bunch of feelings you really can't describe.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, so you're there. Is your family there? Because I mean, you're going to get married. What does your family think about this? You're going to marry somebody on the internet. You're going to Kenya.
The only person that I told that I was going to Kenya was my boss, so I can get the time off to leave. because I was going there for me. I was going there for her. My family, I was never close to my family on my mother and my father's side. Both my mother and father passed away in the last couple of years.
Okay.
But yeah, they were not close to me for certain reasons, and I didn't care because I was going there for her and, you know, for myself, period. And I knew I was going to eventually move there anyway. You know, people have done it since the beginning of time. You know, they break away from their mother and father. They go to a distant land, marry somebody, and then never see their parents again. There's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't mean you don't love your parents any less, but you know, things like that happen.
Well, shout out to my man, Wake the Hell Up. He said Warriors in 5. I hope so. I hate the Cavs. Let's talk about, okay, so you had I'm assuming, a pretty good career in the West Coast, economic stability. You're going to go to Nairobi, Kenya, right? How is JPV surviving in Nairobi?
Prior to the trip?
Well, yes. So you're getting ready to hop. Now you did live in Kenya for some time, right?
Yeah, I still live there. I just haven't been there for a while. Surviving in Spokane, and before that, I was in computer and consumer electronics sales for a long time, kind of like Dynast. I don't know what type of sales, but I've been in sales for a long time with electronics.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you were in Kenya, and what's the longest time that you actually stayed there? I mean, without coming back to the United States?
Because I don't have citizenship all the way processed, because you got to stay there for a while, 3 months.
3 months. Okay, so you're there for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
How is JPV supporting himself? The legendary John Powell video. How is he doing this? How is he supporting himself there?
The money I brought with me. My wife also sells clothing. She doesn't sell the used clothing that you usually see on TV. And I've also one time I've brought some books just to see how they'd sell, and they sold pretty good.
Okay.
So, but that was my spending, or basically the money that I brought with me was from the U.S. pretty much 100%.
Okay, so you saved up some money, kind of like what I'm getting ready to do right now, going over there, taking some money from what I make and say, fuck it. Okay, cool. So let me ask you this. So looking at Nairobi, were you actually living in Nairobi, or were you living in her hometown?
Well, the first couple times it was in her hometown. She didn't move to Nairobi till about 2-3 years after we were married. She was actually kind of like, you know, convincing me for a long time to move there because I didn't want her to move there. So eventually, you know, she's just talking about the job market. So I'm not trying to keep my wife in her hometown and kind of leave her secluded while I'm not there. So I just let her go ahead and move us to Nairobi, and we've just been living there ever since.
Okay. So been living there ever since. All right. So let me ask you this. Been living there ever since. So what is Nairobi like as a city compared to Spokane, Seattle, Portland? You're there now. If you can contrast what Nairobi is like to your modern West Coast cities you're familiar with. I know you live in California at some point, live in Sacramento for some point. What's the difference between what makes Nairobi stand out against all of these cities?
It's a energy. I have to say, the energy that gets people to say hello to you in the morning, to smile, treat each other with respect. I mean, genuine respect with one another. Everybody's shaking hands. You know, I mean, let's say, for example, you walk up with a friend that knows 10 people that you're walking up to. You're the friend. You're going to shake everybody's hand, even if you're not going to do the talking. There's a lot of clubs there. There's more nightclubs there than I think New York had ever had in its history. I mean, everybody has a nightclub popping up everywhere if you're into that type of thing. Kids are happy. You know, even people living in poverty, kids are happy. They don't seem like they're all stressed out like they are over here. The adults are happy. You know, the biggest struggle over there is to make sure that you make enough money for the day for most people so that you can eat that night. Other than that, there's a lot of energy there that you don't see on the West Coast. Hospitality is a huge one. You know, me and Dynas have brought this up a few times. If you're really, you know, like to be treated very well, and you don't have to think about, you know, how you're going to be treated, you know, oh man, I don't feel like going here. This is Denny's, you know, they're going to treat me like shit. Half the time it's good, half the other experiences are bad. No, you're going to be treated very well. And if they make a mistake, they're going to actually fix that mistake. You don't have to yell at them or anything like that. It's a different energy, man. It's undescribable to me.
Let's talk about some of the city infrastructure, and we'll get into the dating of the women pretty soon. But what I mean, you're getting out of you know, you're in Nairobi. You want to you know, what do the streets look like? What's the electricity situation like? What's the internet speed like? I mean, let's talk about those things living in Africa as opposed to living in the United States.
Okay, well, let's start with the roads. A lot of the main roads, ever since Kibaki, towards the end of his term, have been fixed. Thika Road, which is now called Thika Superhighway, which is a 4-lane freeway from Nairobi to Thika, which also goes up to my wife's town in Nanyuki, used to take 3.5 hours. Now it only takes about 2.5 hours since it's been fixed. So that's a big improvement. Wow. It took us, I think, 8 or 9 hours to get from Nairobi to Mombasa at night on a bus, and the roads were messed up. It's going through Savo Park. So it only takes like about 5 hours now instead of 8 or 9 hours to drive there. And that was fixed probably about 7 years ago, maybe. So a lot of roads are being fixed, but then you'll have a lot of roads like in between apartment buildings, like off the main road, that are dirt roads. So when it rains, there's a lot of mud, you know, mud puddles and things of that nature. So it's kind of, the roads, the main roads are good. The not so main roads are kind of bad. So let's put it that way. As far as electricity is concerned, and people bringing their own electronics, I'll add that with this. Any electronics that you bring, at least cameras, laptops, anything of that nature, should already be ranged for 110 to 220 voltage or 240 voltage. So you can look that up on the bottom of your computers, your cameras, and things like that. If you're going to be bringing blow dryers, make sure it's 220. Shavers, you know, clippers and stuff like that, make sure it's 220, because if you buy that over there, you're going to spend a little more money. As far as electricity in Nairobi, it's up most of the time. So, you know, we're talking before we started the show that, you know, you can go a whole 2 weeks in Nairobi and there's not a single power outage, and then all of a sudden you'll have 4 in one day. You know, so it's you never know when that's going to happen. And I do recommend bringing a surge protector or buying one when you get there that's rated for that voltage in that country or any other country that you go to. Okay, so besides the roads and electricity, what else did you say? The buildings?
Hold on a second. DJ Batman. Hey, bro, hold on. I'm not asking him nothing. Super chat your question, dude. I've never seen you donate in here unless you're a Patreon. If you're a Patreon, DJ Batman, give me your email. I'll check the Patreon list, and then I'll ask that question. But if you're not contributing to this fucking chat, I'm not asking him shit. So, you know, a lot of y'all niggas come in this motherfucker thinking like, I'm gonna just ask him that, ask him. Nigga, please. Okay.
I'll go ahead and answer his question since it's right here, because this is the second time.
No, don't ask him shit. Don't ask him shit. No. Let him do what he's supposed to do.
Okay.
Because if you do that, this motherfucker will still just keep trying to do that shit. So let him give it. Okay, King Demetrius. Let's answer his question. He wants to know how would it be for a brother. I think he wants to know how would Kenyan women how do they treat? I know you're, you know, like American black men. Have you encountered any American people, black people there in Kenya while you were there?
Absolutely.
Okay. What is there?
Not that many, but the majority that I have, they were calm, collective, you know, and I think that just came kind of naturally. Either they've been there a few times, or it's just because when you get off the airport and the way you're treated, you just automatically just kind of blend in to that type of attitude, you know. But I have no idea, because I didn't know any of these guys personally. But I have seen an African-American couple there talk shit, in Nairobi to some Kenyans about their service. And what it was, they're just not used to hospitality. They didn't do anything wrong. They were just complaining about any and everything, just like some of the white expats do. It was no different than the white expats.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as, because they can tell if you're African American once you speak or the way that you walk, what they're going to wait for is to see how you act. And if you act like a normal individual, as they consider being normal, as like one of them, then they have no problem. And you want to bring it to Africa, I recommend that you don't. Leave it at the airport.
Mm-hmm.
Come with a clean attitude. Come with an open mind. Absorb their culture. Don't try to say, well, as soon as I get here, I'm going to show them what's up. It ain't going to work. To your question, you ain't got no problem as long as you treat people with respect. They'll treat you with respect. As simple as that.
Okay, cool. And now, this brother wants to know, Big Willie. He been killing this super chat today, man. Shout out to him. What he wants to know is, how do Kenyan women? First of all, did you see a lot of attractive Kenyan women when you were there? Your parents? Because this other brother came on. His name was Nux. I forgot what his YouTube name is, but he came on. He had just got to Kenya. He said that he saw like a lot of nice bodies, a lot of fat ass butts and shit like that, but not so many like gorgeous women there, but like a lot of nice bodies.
Well, that's true, but you know what the other thing is about that, and I'm not trying to put words in his mouth or trying to change his mind. I'll agree with that, except that a lot of Americans are not used to the strong features of African women. Used to the strong features of African women, it's absolutely beautiful. And another thing too, most women over there, they don't wear facial makeup. So a lot of guys are ready to see a woman all dressed up in the fakeness of what America is. Used to the real beauty, like a lot of Kikuyu women, especially Kikuyus. And if there's any Kikuyus listening, I know they're raising their hands and clapping right now. But they are gorgeous women, man. In Kenya, they're probably the most gorgeous women out there, but they're not the only ones. You just have to get used to a different look. Yeah, I know there's a lot of ugly Nigerian women, and I'm not afraid to say that, but man, there's a lot of beautiful ones too.
Yeah, that's true.
In the face and everything, man. So don't take it there and just say that they're ugly. You just got to get used to a different look. They're not into makeup. The personalities when they smile, their faces and everything look different. It's just some do with the muscles, the food. I don't know, but it's just different.
Okay, cool. Let's do this. Let's take this time to take just a quick intermission. Once again, thank you guys for supporting the show. I really appreciate everybody in here. Thank you to Junk Pile Video for coming by. It's always great. You guys are are the best fans in the world. Shout out to my man Rick Thompson. Appreciate you, North Star. I appreciate you, Big Willie. Appreciate you. I appreciate all of you guys. JR Wisdom. Do me a favor. 96 people, right? Let's get the likes up, brothers, if we can. Let's keep the likes coming up, and keep the videos coming up and liking. Now, for some of you who have not checked out Junk Pile Video YouTube channel, you are in for a treat. Like I said, he's highly bright, highly articulate. He will also roast you too. So he has some of those kind of videos up there, believe it or not. Especially against like some of this World Nation. What up, Richard8209? Hit the like button. Appreciate you, fam. 2269 in the chat. Love you guys, man. You guys are gonna make me rich. I'm about to get a Jerry curl again. So let's do this.
RT Clancy, man. I don't know if you just seen what he said, but that question. Any big booty white women in Africa?
All right, hold on. This RT Clancy dude, I think like this brother comes in here all the time. He's always talking about, I'm finna donate, I'm finna do this. He just comes in here and trolls, bro. Like, I don't even know why he's here, because he's like always asking some questions like out of the blue. But shout out to that nigga. Our Richard8209, shout out to him. Black Lion said I got roasted by JPV. It was an honor. RT Clancy, I don't want to see no Serena Williams. You know what, bro? I'm like 3 seconds from banning you. What up, Ronald K. Armstrong, Friendmaker? Let's be frank. What's up, man? Glad to see you here, bro. Appreciate you being here from the SYBSM part of YouTube. Let's do this. Let's subscribe to Junk Pile Video. If you can, I'll put his link there. You're in for a real treat. Junk Pile Video is, you know, one of the undertoning content creators. Although he's not black, but you would damn sure forget it. I mean, real quick, I have to keep reminding myself. But he's definitely, man, very, very helpful. He's very, 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 very helpful. He will do anything to help you. He's always trying to, you know, to give more knowledge, to help more people, to go to Africa. Now, that's something when you get a person who's not black, telling black people, hey, bro, listen, you should go to Africa. He's white, you know what I mean? And I think Junk Pile Video has probably told 99% of people that I've seen on YouTube in the sector. Junk Pile Video is the only person that I've heard tell black men to go to Africa, and he's white. That's the only, like, I've heard search for who said it, but he's the only one that's consistently always saying it's his theme. He promotes Africa, and he's really one of the guys that's got me going over there. And I got a surprise for Junk Pile, but I won't tell him right now. But got a big surprise for him when I come back from there, because he inspired me to go. So when I come back, I'll bring him something back, send it to him. So let's go ahead and get the likes up, brothers. Shout out to Ronald K. Armstrong. Wrote an excellent article in the Negro Manosphere. He'll be on tomorrow night. He's a filmmaker, film producer. He wrote a great article on the site talking about the emasculation of black men in Hollywood. If you are not subscribed to the Negro Manosphere, please put your email in the comment section of the chat. I have 96 people watching. We're closing in on 1,000 subscribed emails. So please, brothers, come here and put your emails in. RT Clancy, Houdini Dimes, Big Willie, Black Lion. I think you're already subscribed. But if you're not subscribed to the Negro Manosphere, D-Train Burnt Bunk, I don't know if you're subscribed. Shout out to Char Willie. Araka, what up, Araka? I'm pretty sure he's subscribed. Put the actual emails there so we can get you subscribed to the site. JPB, let's continue, bro.
Okay.
Now, I want to talk to you about some certain things because you're going over to Kenya. What do you miss most about America being over in Kenya?
Now, that's a tough one because I've been asked that question before, and I think I've actually given different answers to different people, not on purpose. It just kind of changes. Outside of having access to the internet, I really don't see anything. Not that I can't get internet there, but you know, here, that's about the only thing I could think of that I'm going to miss. But that's changing over there because more and more people are getting connected to the fiber optics that's hooked up over there now. So if that's any inclination of that I hate America, I hate America.
Okay, all right. And once again, shout out to Richard 8209 RM Dallas at yahoo.com. Thank you, bro. I'm gonna subscribe you there. But let's talk about this China infrastructure. Shout out to Kenneth Banks because I mean I talked to you about this before. We talked about there was a story where Chinese people had a restaurant and then they wouldn't even they wouldn't even let Kenyans come in that restaurant after a certain time.
Right.
Let's talk about the impact of the Chinese in Kenya, and also, can you tell us what other African countries that you've been to?
Okay, so let's clear that one up right now. I've only been to Burundi and Kenya, and in Burundi, it was just a touchdown for 30 minutes on Air Brussels to go to Kenya from Brussels, and that was it. Haven't been to any other one. Plan to go to Tanzania and Uganda with my wife at a later time. So let's just say it's Kenya.
Okay, this Kenya.
Yep.
What do you see as far as the economy? Who's running the merchandising there? When you go to the markets, who's owning the businesses in Kenya? Who's controlling the money?
You know, there's actually, and I don't remember what channel it is. I think it's Nation Media. They have a TV show where they talk about almost every night or every week who owns Kenya. And let's see, Equity Bank is a good one. There's more than one person or company that owns equity. It was a couple of Nigerians out of the UK that owned bought out the majority of Equity Bank. So there's a lot of British, there's a lot of Indian, and then there's a lot of Africans that own property and businesses within Kenya. And so there's a way to research it in Kenya. And I'm sure there's ways to research that same type of information in all the other African countries. But if you think it's just mostly solely Kenyans and you thought it was just all Chinese, you're wrong. Chinese are there in Kenya, but they're not in Kenya as big as, like, say, Angola and a few other African countries. They're mainly there just to build the railroad. They really don't have a big impact. And the thing about the Kenyan government, as far as the railroad, which was just finished, they just had their launch today, the 31st, to go from the Nairobi terminus to the Mombasa terminus, and there's 31 stations in between. It was mostly Kenyans that built that track and that train, and they took about a couple hundred people to China to train them to be engineers to run that train. It was majority of the people there that built that had to be Kenyan, whereas in Angola it was 100% Chinese, from what I hear. Very serious about it.
So at least the Kenyan government forced, listen, Chinese, you guys can do this, but you're actually going to train our people to do the work.
Exactly, because you can't just build an infrastructure. It's so sophisticated. I'm going to tell you now. I was watching the videos last night to catch up. It's Kenya Railways, which is owned by the government, by the way. So sophisticated that they can't just leave it hanging there with no way to be trained. And they weren't just going to have Chinese engineers there to run the operation. It's to build the operation or to help build it and then give it over. That's the agreement. And so far it's great. The launch went on without a hitch. And this same company that from China is going to build it all the way to Rwanda, Uganda, and a few other African countries to connect with Mombasa on the ocean. So this is going to be a much bigger project in the future, but it's going to be Kenyans, Ugandans, and other Africans that are going to be running it. I had some videos on the Kenyan railways later on my channel. So.
Okay, shout out to the Ron in the chat. Let me do this. Carlos G, man, you always donate good amount. It's always like a weird number, like 1914 or something. Keep putting the fire under these fools, whether male or female. True gender equality. Appreciate you. Charles Gilmore. Hey, bro, listen, man, you already donated enough. You don't need to donate. Shout out to Charles Gilmore 3. Okay, Theron and Charles Gilmore, you guys, listen, just actually, you guys are good, bro. Like, I love you guys. You guys just kill. Okay, I'm going to ask the questions. Don't worry about putting in the money. All right, Charles Gilmore III, I really appreciate that, brother. Let me make him a moderator, man, in here. I wonder what.
Yeah, I'm looking at his.
Okay, I wonder what is the most adverse situation that JPV has faced in Africa, if any.
Not too much. I think the biggest one ever is my wife, you know, after her parents died, there was a family that took care of him, and the father of that family was taking me around with my camera to another district. And the chief in that area basically said, don't take pictures, which I had no problem doing. But people, if they ask me to take the picture, because sometimes they just come up to you, just take my picture, you know, for nothing. So I did that for a few, and then all of a sudden a few guys wanted some money. They went and ran to the chief like little kids, and he came out and said, Keith, come here, bring your camera, blah, 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 whatever. And he basically kind of tried to scare me into giving him some money. All right. And he said, I can take your camera from you if I want to. And I said, no, you can't. And I know the laws. And being a chief doesn't necessarily give you like legal authority over anybody, but they're more of a counsel type of person. And it was in a dispensary, basically like a medical dispensary. There's a lot of them that are built out there, but they're not being utilized for medical. They might be just there collecting dust or to teach a couple of math classes, things of that nature. So it was outside of a medical dispensary.
Mhm.
The biggest issue I've ever had. Otherwise, for the most part, man, I feel nothing but love over there.
Okay. Big Willie, bro, you prices for food in Africa. Let's talk about going out on a night on the town. You know, now have you been to Mombasa also, or just you know?
I've been to Mombasa once. That was on my first time out there, and that was where me and my wife had our honeymoon.
Oh, okay, cool. Damn, Rick Thompson. Rick Thompson got hella money. Rick, no, just to ask some. All right, guys, hold on, man. All right, I got something to show, man. You guys are so good to me, bro. It's just amazing, man. Charles, bro, you always support. Rick Thompson has always support, man. No questions, just a little something for your trip. Stay out there, bro. Charles, get him on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, man.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Dude, I'm like, I almost want to kick him out of the chat because he gives so much damn money, and he doesn't have to. You know what I mean? It's like just every fucking show. I'm gonna start doing these motherfuckers when he is asleep, so he can save some of his damn money. But appreciate you guys, man. You know, you guys are very, very good to me, man. I really thank you for what you guys do. I'm gonna add you guys as moderators. I ain't gonna add nobody else. But thank you guys for what you do, man. Really, I'm very touched. You know, for the generosity that you guys really bring to me. Let's talk about the food on the, you know, in Africa, bro. What we're looking at.
Well, me and my wife, we like to eat out quite a bit, probably about almost 50% of the time, which we shouldn't, but you're probably going to spend between two people, like for a full plate,
Mm-hmm.
you know, rice, chicken, mukimo, which is basically like greens and potatoes kind of mixed up together. It's all green, and a few other things, but no machoma, which just means roasted meat. You're mostly eating goat, you know, roasted goat, roasted beef. That can run you, depending on where you go, about $1 for a slab of meat. Let's see, all the meat there, by the way, doesn't have hormones and all that other shit in it, so it tastes better. But yeah, and that includes a drink too for those prices.
Wow. Okay. So we're working with a drink. Okay. What about renting in this particular area? I know that you're in Nairobi. Let's say I want to stay in a good neighborhood, maybe like the Westlands. What are some of the good areas of Nairobi that you would want to live in if you were, you know, when you go back, or advise somebody to stay in? What areas can we look for?
Well, you can do Parklands, you can do Westlands, you can do parts of South B. There's areas outside of the city center. I can't think of the name of them right now, but you're probably going to look at comfortably like a nice 1-bedroom in those places for about $700-800 a month. If they know you're a tourist, like working for an NGO, they're probably going to charge you $1,500 to $2,000.
Wow.
Just you know, like a humble apartment, 2-bedroom, like where me and my wife live, you can get it for about $350 a month.
Okay. What are we looking at? I mean, as far as utilities, you know, are concerned.
Me and my wife pay an average of $6 a month. I really can't say about those other neighborhoods, but we don't have that many electronics. We just got one outlet, and we share that outlet on a power strip. So,
wow, it's $7 a month.
I pay $6. I mean, my wife has never paid $7 that she's told me.
Okay, so and a shout out to Geo Scholar, man. Love your work, straight from your own perspective. Much more growth. Do you think you'll be? Do you think there would be? Okay, love your work, straight from your perspective, Ocean and JPV. Do you think there'll be much more growth in places like Kenya, Tanzania, and Mozambique? I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, let's start with Kenya. Kenya is the technology hub of all of Africa. It's not South Africa. So Mark Zuckerberg recently, a few months back, went to Kenya to try to buy out M-Pesa, which is owned by Safaricom. Safaricom is the biggest cell phone company out there. So what M-Pesa is basically you take your SIM card on your phone, like say 3,000 shillings, send it to a family member, and they can either pick it up in their bank or go to an ATM within 2 hours and have the 3,000 shillings, just like that. The fees are very cheap. So Mark Zuckerberg was interested in that. I think he did buy a portion of it that you can use with Facebook. Infrastructure, as far as IT, it's unlimited. You got Google out there. You got a bunch of other companies from here in Silicon Valley over there. And of course, it's just on the table of making an Africa Silicon Valley in the Savo Park. They need about 30 manufacturers to actually commit, but it's basically going to be a secluded Silicon Valley in the middle of a national park. Right now, they only have about 14 companies that are manufacturers that actually would do R&D there, and R&D just means research and development, not necessarily manufacturing. So if that ever gets off the ground, that would be in Kenya. As far as Tanzania, I really don't know. I think there's a lot more in tourism that's going to pick up there because Kenya is the leader in tourism. Tanzania is second. So tourism is still a heavy business that anybody can get into because the amount of people that come in during the tourist seasons, they don't have enough tour guides. So if you can like set up a travel office where you're at locally and have some connections in Kenya and Tanzania, even Mozambique, you can make some pretty good money. Best thing to do is go out there, meet some people, see how it's done. That's still a big market to get into. Agriculture, Tanzania and Kenya, definitely big businesses as well. So if you got a master's or PhD in agriculture, those are hotbeds for that, man. Real hotbeds. You can get with some really good NGOs or private companies in both of those countries. Mozambique, however, I don't think they do anything agriculturally, but I could be wrong.
What about healthcare? I mean, what did you see? Did you ever see a doctor while you were in Kenya? Did you ever see how much did those things cost?
I myself, I've never had to go to the doctor. I've never caught malaria.
Lucky.
I never gotten sick there. No, so but it's if you're going to go to a private doctor, you don't have to wait in line. If you're going to go to the general hospital, you'll wait in line, and a lot of times you'll have to pay in advance whatever the problem is going to be. If you don't have the money, it is in some situations at the general hospitals they won't see you, so that is a little bit of a drawback. But if you have a private doctor, you're not going to wait in line. You're just going to spend a little money, but it's a lot cheaper there to pay a bill than it is here.
Okay. All right, interesting. So, definitely we have that going. Let me see. What are some other things? I guess what I want to know is this: since you've been married to your wife from Kenya, you've been married for over 10 years, right?
Yes.
At least. Okay.
Yes.
What differences do you see? I mean, now it's been 10 years. I'm pretty sure you have your ups and downs. But still, if you can compare your experience to dating and marrying to a Kenyan woman, what advantages do you have do you feel that you have of versus marrying an American woman?
One of the biggest differences, they leave you alone. If you need, I'm serious. If you need man time, whether if it's just to be by yourself or hang with the fellas, they leave you alone. That's not to say that when you're there, not overseas, but when you're there with her, that you don't give her any attention. You got to give her some attention. You know what I mean? Because it's not a 50-50 deal, but it's in a marriage agreement. You got to give her some time. The other big difference is that I don't hear cuss words all the time. So the cussing I've been doing lately is because I'm back over here. I've gotten used to it again. Over there, she has to check me. She's like, as soon as I say the F word or anything, it's a big deal. It's a very big deal. The other advantages is I'm not allowed to wash the dishes if I want to. I got to sneak around and do that. If I want to, I can't cook because she's going to cook for me. Bath water because she's going to do it, that type of stuff. Those are big advantages. She basically just wants to take care of me, and that's what a lot of women do there. It's a lot of things that you don't think about that you start noticing once you're around an African woman compared to American women. So it's kind of hard to say, but those things come out right away. You start noticing those right away.
Did your wife did she come from a particular, like a middle class background? Were her parents professional people? I mean, I know a lot of times, like when we think of, I'm gonna marry a Filipino woman or an African woman or a Brazilian woman. I need to do a video on that. A lot of times we don't take into consideration that, the kind of person you are needs to be reflected in that person as far as what's their level of education, what's their level of intellect, what's their level of conversation. What kind of family and background did your wife come from? And if you don't mind asking or answering that, and then that way, maybe the people can get maybe more of a realistic idea of, what ballpark or what type of, mindset they should be looking for in a woman to pair off with.
That's a great question, because I wanted to kind of do a video about that at some point. To start off, well, her father comes from a family of 10 brothers and 1 sister between 2 wives from his father. And that's 2 wives being married at the same time.
Damn.
He's the oldest out of all the kids. He was the first to go to college. Somehow he put himself through college. Poor background in Meru, Kenya. He ended up becoming, after a while, a bank manager at Barclays Bank, which is probably still the biggest bank in the UK.
Yeah.
And what he had done when he was a manager, he made so much money, he actually, moved his family into a fairly nice home in Nanyuki. They had a refrigerator they never had before, some amenities that most people don't have. And he ended up paying the college tuition of all his younger brothers when they got out of high school. He's one by one, he was paying for all of them. But then he passed away when she was about 10 years old. Passed away, the wife, she was only a school teacher, her mom. So being a school teacher, you don't make a lot of money, but she's educated. Her father was educated. They're both college, graduates. So anyway, she had to make the decision that we can't no longer spend the money on these college tuitions for his younger brothers. And I think there's only 2 of them left that needed to graduate. So one of those 2 held a grudge, but against my wife and her 3 brothers, because her mother ended up dying about 5 years after her husband died. Okay. And and both of them died. It wasn't of AIDS or anything like that. It was alcohol and then depression because her husband was gone, But anyway, they lost a lot of the stuff that they had that was left over for the kids. My wife sacrificed her high school last year of education, because you got to pay for high school out there, so her youngest brother could graduate.
Wow.
So basically, me and her really got along because I kind of looked at her as, the way I grew up with my family. It's like nobody paid attention to me. My family, I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I didn't do all this crazy stuff that both my mom and my dad's side of the family were doing. So I was an outcast. So I wasn't close to my parents. So therefore, she lost her parents. So I felt kind of like that connection right there. And we got along great with a lot of other topics. But in other circumstances, I wouldn't have told that story for the simple fact that that would be like family business. But since no one's ever going to meet her and things of that nature, I wanted to let that be known, because that's how it went. That is her background, economic background.
Okay.
Started out good and didn't end up so good.
Okay. But besides all of the, the things is that you have, she's definitely seems like a very hardworking person. Definitely seems like a very enterprising person, because she still has a business. She's performing well in this business. What difference did you see in her than you saw maybe as far as like business, wanting to be successful and running her own business? How did that attract you to her?
I was the total opposite of American women. I've had 2 businesses in the past myself. One was a retail business selling like Japanese goods, like collector's items like Godzilla and stuff like that. That business didn't do too well. But I had a girlfriend at the time. I said, hey, when I get off work, I got to spend X amount of hours on the side business to try to make it successful.
Mm-hmm.
And after 60 days, she says, you don't love me anymore. You love Godzilla more than you love me. So there's that time of a 60-day period where she just broke alone because I was busy all the time. So my last chance American girlfriend that lasted 8.5 years, I had a second business where I was selling like video cables and stuff like that online. Now that was getting successful.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the same thing. I asked the question before, can you handle the amount of time after work that I need to spend on this business to make it successful? Same thing. Yeah, no problem, no problem. I swear to God, it was 60 days. She did the exact same thing. You love them video cables more than you love me. You love that HDMI more than you love me. I mean, it's just crazy. Now, because of the culture over there, you want to have your own business.
Right.
Right. So that right there was a big difference. If I want to read a book, she'll leave me alone so I can read my damn book. It doesn't matter if it's for pleasure or for business. She'll just leave me alone and she'll do whatever she has to do the whole damn day. It makes a big difference in me getting things done or doing the things that I want to do without any interruptions.
Mm-hmm. 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 Okay. Let me see. Ask this. If you go to Kenya with, obviously in America, you have a really, really, really good job here. Why would you want to leave what you have here in America and go to Kenya and kind of risk it? I mean, why wouldn't you just stay in America with your Kenyan wife and live, a fairly easier life, because you're very smart and you're very enterprising, obviously. Why would you want to risk it going back to Africa? I'm just saying, if there's somebody that thinks in the matrix, you know what I mean? They haven't traveled anywhere. Why would you leave what you have here to go back to Kenya and it's uncertain for you there?
Well, if it's uncertain, then I just have to break it down to the basics. We're men. We take risk. And if you never take any risk, you'll never find out if it's going to be worth it or not. So what's worth it to me is finding my own happiness. And my own happiness is definitely not here in America. You can work for 10 years or you can work for 20 years, but you're going to have an extra 10 years that you're going to suffer over here just working, but find no happiness unless you're over there. Now you can take your money from here and go over there and start a business, or you can, know people and get a job that you want to be in, or at least with a company that you want to be with to work. But if those two things don't pan out, you got to remember, you can take business classes here or over there and learn how to run a business. You just need a little bit of capital, because there's more businesses being ran out there that you can work with as a business owner than you can find a job, because most of the jobs are not out there, but businesses are. And here there's more business. It's easier to get a job than to create a business and keep it alive. It's the opposite there. That's what I really meant to say.
Okay, perfect. So I definitely understand that. Now let's talk about this, because the Africa, like I was watching in the Uganda, places like Kampala. I know you've never been, but a place like Kampala, where you have so much corruption in the Ugandan government. You have a big place where there is how can I say this? You have a huge place, and the city has no room for expansion. You have no other major cities that are being developed. Now I know Kenya is much more equipped to handle these things, but still, in comparison to like maybe a city that I'm living in, Poland, which is Lublin, you have a lot of more advanced roads, a lot of more advanced things. A person of your skill set, it's back to the uncertain thing there. But do you think that you're able to at least make the kind of money that you would make in America someday in Kenya? And have you gotten to, do you think that Kenya will provide you an opportunity to do so in the future?
Absolutely. And that's the advantage of being a salesman. I know a lot of people don't like being into sales, but if you can make it out here in America, you can pretty much make it anywhere. And you got to have that mindset. Wherever there is a demand, If you can fit the supply to that demand, you're going to make a living. Okay, so
say that again. Say it again for those people.
I hope I can remember it the same way. If you can sell,
right,
and you find the demand and you can supply that demand, you're going to make a living. So the simple fact that my wife never knew, because she used to sell used clothes and didn't make hardly anything, was doing it. And then she started selling new clothes just to take a risk of selling new clothes, thinking nobody can afford it. It was the polar opposite. Everybody wanted the new stuff. They spent the extra money. People wanted rain gear. They started asking her for things that, can you bring from Nairobi, because she sells out of town. Friends. She's getting new connections all the time. She now sells pineapples twice a year out of Thika, which is about an hour outside of Nairobi. So 2 times a year, she makes a lot extra money selling, not pine cones. I say pine cones, pineapples. And then there's some other fruit in Mombasa she just tried last year, and she started making money on that because some woman came to her, do business, can you help me out?
Wow.
And it wasn't pineapples, it was something else. I don't know if it was coconuts or what it was, but it was something else. So my wife is very enterprising to dip her fingers in other areas just to see if things work. And if they work, she continues. And she has a sticks to, okay, her and her friends both, or all 3 of them actually, they just go to this town that week, that town that week, that town that week. They take a vacation this 2 weeks and then go back and do it all over again.
Wow. That's absolutely great, man. You know, that's able to be done. It's a wonderful thing to see, you know, that, and I had Chris Jones. I don't know if you were here when you heard, were you here for that Chris Jones interview?
I don't remember. Where's he from?
Chris Jones is,
or where is he at?
He's from Dallas, Texas. He's a bodybuilder, Pump Chasers.
Oh, yeah. I saw the beginning of it, but I didn't get to watch it all. No.
And one of the biggest bodybuilding channels on YouTube, very, very popular. Shout out to him. We did a giveaway. I ordered some shirts for him, and he sent those. Yeah, Dallas, Fort Worth area, Randy Sargent. He definitely going to come back probably when I get back from Africa. He told his story very similar to what you're talking about now, how he was enterprising, you know, became a millionaire, you know, just kind of stuck to it, and being a salesperson, you know. That's the thing people don't understand, you know, selling, fitting the demand, fitting a certain thing, making yourself valuable to certain situations. I think a lot of people make the mistake of focusing on what you want to do, when a lot of times what you want to do is not so viable. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily putting you in a position of economic importance. So this is what, I mean, I know that people like you're doing, you know, what your wife is doing, so I really respect that. Do you see a lot of other people in Kenya that are other Africans that live there that are from other places of the diaspora that you noticed? Other races?
Well, yeah, absolutely. You got to remember, Kenya is the refugee hub for a few neighboring countries over the course of like 25, 30 years. So you definitely have a lot of people from different areas, you know, that have second generation have stayed there because they were born there and they live there, and they're now Kenyan citizens. So South Sudanese, you see quite a bit of, Ethiopians, Somalians, of course, Tanzanians, anything that surrounds Kenya, you're going to see a lot of those folks there.
Okay. Now, Ethiopians, do they run any, shout out to Gila also, do they run a lot of businesses, a lot of merchandise in Kenya, or are they kind of like...
In their neighborhood, yeah. They got a neighborhood called Pangani, which is, my wife used to live in Pangani, which is right next door to the Somalian neighborhood called Eastleigh. And most of the Somalis, that's where they make their money, is within their neighborhood. So yeah, they do run businesses, and it's mainly just doing the same thing, but catering to Eritreans and things of that nature, just like the Somalis do.
Oh, okay. So they kind of cater. Now, what do the Somalian? I mean, I know the Somalian women and Ethiopian people kind of look the same. Are they technically like from the same genre of people?
They are, and there's a lot of big controversial topics about that, especially with the Somalians. And I have to, one guy I worked with who is Somalian, who's very well educated about his own history, told me that a lot of Somalians don't know their own history, but we come from the Ethiopian Empire. Somalia used to be Ethiopia at one time. Now, a lot of Somalians will look up and down and say, you're crazy. We have never been Ethiopian. They are us. So you kind of see what that is. No, Ethiopians are actually Somalians.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. There's no written history that I know. I just remember what he said, and that's basically how I got to play it out is, they used to be the same at one time. Djibouti used to be Somalia, which is its own country now. To be Ethiopia. They were fighting over oil, over 60 years ago. That's why they separated. They don't deny that they're the same, between Eritreans and Ethiopians. But yeah, that's mainly who you see there.
Okay. Well, wow, man, I've learned a lot. I always do learn a lot, from the brothers that are kicking knowledge and game. Shout out to so many people here in the chat. Let's see. Pretty much, I really don't have. I say, how long have we been on this Hangout so far?
A little over an hour, but I would definitely like to get some information out about this website, so some of these guys here can get this experience with some women without buying a plane ticket too early. You know what I mean?
Okay, sure. Let's talk about that.
Okay. So first, let's start with let's get the likes up, because I'm going to give some information to you guys that you really never heard from other people. Some of it's going to be the same, but some of it's not, because I haven't heard anybody else talk about it. Let me first make a disclaimer, though, to the female audience, and if it does not apply, you got to let it fly. I'm serious, because I got 11 things here that's going to piss off some American females listening. One, and this goes without saying, American women are too fat. Now let's see what the comments are going to say. All right. Number 2, American women play too many games. 3, American women are not loyal. And number 4, American women have too many babies with too many daddies. American women are too easy to bed down. And if you're having trouble with that, that's because your game ain't right. But it's actually easier to bed down an American woman than it is an African woman. American women refuse to get tested for STIs. Therefore, you cannot know their status. African women will break your arm to go to the STD clinic. All right. American women believe men have absolutely no right to refuse a woman for sex. But we don't. American women act like men. Therefore, they have lost all manner of their natural femininity. Women are weak. American women are not sophisticated. And lastly, and this will confuse some people, American women are downright creepy.
Yo, let me.
If you want me to elaborate, I'll elaborate on that one.
Yeah, let's elaborate on all of them. Clap for Theron Williams. Theron, dude. Theron, is one of those dudes. He has addicted to the super chat button. That, he tries not to push it, but he can't help himself. I think one day he's gonna put $1 million in there and blow the world up some shit. Appreciate Theron, man. Like I said, you guys give a lot as it is. You know what I mean? You guys do a lot for the channel. You're not obligated to do this every fucking time. You know what I mean? Because I really do genuinely like you guys that come in and participate, even if I do roast some sometimes. But thank you again, bro. This comes back to y'all anyway. I always put it back into what we're trying to do. So let's elaborate on all of those. Yeah, Theron is he's like a super chat. And he's like, you know what? I ain't gonna tell you today.
Okay, well, I mean, the too fat. I mean, how many other countries do you have fat women all over the place besides America? Unless it's a really small island where they can't get any running done from one side to the other. American women are fat. They just don't take care of themselves. We talk about this all too often. It is a health concern, not just for the female, but for your kids while she's pregnant. Being fat before pregnancy is a problem. It's just something you're not going to see over there. Playing too many games. I mean, we all know about that. Why do you have to act like a certain way, or try to act like a macho man? That's playing a game in order to get the game. When you can actually have a woman over there to say hello to you, and you can just talk like a normal dude, relax, be like yourself, be like those dudes in the movie Frustrated down in Brazil. You don't have to play those games. That's exactly the way it is in Africa.
Well, let me ask you this. I'll cut you off real quick because the women in Kenya, I mean, I know they're not so fat. Why do you think that women in Kenya are so in much better shape than women in America? Even though Americans more modernized, even though Americans more industrialized, with better gyms and cheaper gyms, why is it that do you think Kenyan women are much more in better shape than those women?
Well, the average Kenyan person, man or woman, does an average of 3 to 5 miles of walking a day. That's pretty much almost as good as Japan. The average person in Japan walks 5 miles a day. That's 10,000 steps.
Damn.
So you think about that. Most people don't own cars. That'd be another big reason for it. However, in Nairobi, just the city of Nairobi, because it's so congested and you really can't just walk to work depending on where you live. There's a lot more people with diabetes in Nairobi than there are in the smaller communities because they're not doing as much walking. They're not eating as, they're eating the fast foods and things of that nature. So they can't wait in line for the better foods. Or they just don't bring their lunch as often as, like, say, some Americans do. But in general, they're eating better. And a lot of Kenyan women, when they come to America, they get fat within the first 6 to 12 months. It's never happened before.
So has your wife been, I'm pretty sure she's been to America before, right?
She's never been to America.
Really?
Really. It's never happened.
Does she want to go?
She says she does, but she never gets on the plane, so I'm not worried about it. After the third try, I said, forget it. I ain't trying no more, and I got my money back all 3 times, thank God. But yeah, I'm not worried about it, and I'm glad because in the long run it saved us both some money. So yeah. So here's the other thing: American women are not loyal. And let me elaborate on that one. Let's just go with the marriage part of that instead of getting too technical with that. American women, 20 years or less, usually want a divorce. They want to be independent. And it's not always because they might get a better job someday than their husband. It's because they just don't want to be married anymore. They're getting bored. This and that. They don't want to have children anymore, or they already had their children so that the guy is no longer useful anymore. Or I want to be single again, and that's it. Those are not attitudes that you're going to get over there. So over there, you're not going to find loyalty over here. The having too many babies thing, that goes without saying by too many men. Women are easy to bed in America. They are just way too easy. Now, they may play games, but all you have to do is play that little game, and they're down in the bed with you the first day. You can't do it in Africa, but over there you don't have to play a game, and a lot of times they're going to say no. You become their boyfriend or whatever, they're going to say no. The other one is getting tested. You say, okay, let's go get tested. They don't want to get tested, or if they agree to it, then they renege on test date. So you definitely, this day and age, you got to know your status no matter what. I don't care who you are or where you're at. You got to know your status. American women believe that men absolutely have no right to refuse them sex, as if, okay, they are the gatekeepers of sex. That is true. If a man doesn't want to do it or is not interested in you, then just let it fly. And to be honest with you, that's a creepy attribute. It really is. If you really think about it, it's pretty creepy. Okay, acting like men, acting like a man, or a man acting like a woman is pretty creepy. It doesn't mean that they're homosexuals, but acting like the opposite sex is not going to get you very far, and you don't see that over there. All right. And American women, you know, always claim that they're strong, this and that. No, when you say you want to be independent and you don't need a man, this and that makes you weak. It makes you sound weak. It makes you weak because you always need a man for something. If we didn't have men, we wouldn't have bridges, we wouldn't have roads, we wouldn't have planes so you can take your freaking vacation to Hawaii. You wouldn't have none of that. And of course, you know, not sophisticated. Why are they not sophisticated? Because they don't know how to say hello. They don't know how to come up and shake your hand. They don't know how to keep a marriage intact. They don't know how to keep friendships intact very well. They're not sophisticated at all. And then, of course, you know, the creepy part, basically the first 10 and then a whole lot more, women are just creepy. And I'll elaborate on that one seriously. Here's the creepy people. Swirly minions, girls, transracial confused women, cum collectors, Charwilly got me on that one, lazy dirty asses, washing wannabe computer engineers, ratchets, drug addicts, murderers, homosexual pedophiles, man stalkers, baby snatchers, fist fighting in parking lots with one bun in the oven and the other, gold diggers, dash ass whores, divorce court whores, 501c3 fraudsters, polyamorous YouTube swingers, check fraudsters, car crash texting, Uber drivers, YouTube zombies, and the like. Those are freaking creepy women. Every last one of them, and then some. That's what you're not going to get in Africa. So if you guys are tired and you want to go to Brazil or Africa or somewhere, get your fucking passport. Get on these websites and start talking to these women. Get this different experience. What I'm going to do for you guys is I'm going to put the website of where I met my wife. Go ahead and click on it. Make a profile. Sign up for the gold membership or whatever. Start speaking to these women, because you're not going to find out any other way unless you take the risk. If you don't take the risk, you're just going to listen to us talk about it. That's just like O'Shea. If you want to become, you know, a doctor or somebody in the medical industry, and you don't do anything about it, you're just going to hear O'Shea and other people talk about it. Plain and simple.
And I always like to say, I got tired of hearing you talking about Africa without actually going myself. I got tired of hearing, search for Uhuru, and shout out to him. I don't know if you know this, but Dynast Amir, me and him, my best friend, which is Dr. Kumbi, that's a search for Uhuru's good friend. They were a year younger than me. So before I came, me and Dr. Kumbi, who's a dentist, we both went to Sacramento State University. What ended up happening was Dynast used to be named Albert Hollis. He was an All-American running back. Google Albert Hollis. It's Dynast Amir. Dude ran, I don't know if you remember the wide receiver that went to my high school, Dante Stallworth. I went to two high schools. One was Christian Brothers, one was Grant. Grant was my public school I went to after that. So Dynast came a year after I left my freshman year. But me and Dr. Kumbi are like really close best friends. He's the one that got me to come to medical school. And so Dynast and Kumbi did all 4 years together at Christian Brothers High School. So me and Dynast know absolutely the same people. We've never met personally. We're from the same city, went to the same high school, and missed each other. And so he really was speaking to me because he's been over there. We're from the same area. You know, he's been all over. He's been to Mali. He's been to Senegal. He's been to Kenya. He's been to Namibia. He went to South Africa. Where else did he go? He went to Tanzania. And I believe he went to Benin. So I got tired of hearing him talk about it. I got tired of hearing about you talk about it. I said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going.
Sometimes you need people to keep saying things that you get sick and tired of hearing, and you just go and do it just so you can think about it. And then people are going to be sick and tired of you saying something about it. Then they're going to go do it. And then there's always going to be that majority, unfortunately, that are just going to sit on the sidelines and say, man, I wish I could have done what they did when I had the chance.
Yeah. So I'm nervous. I'm actually nervous. I'm nervous about going. I'm nervous about other things. But thank you, JPV, for encouraging me. What else on that list do we need to go in about?
Okay, so here's a few things. When you get your gold membership, guys, read these women's profiles. I mean, a lot of them, so you can get to know them. And basically, you need to ask them questions to kind of get the answers that you're looking for. And so let me give you an example, because I had to write some of this up last night so I wouldn't forget. Let's see. Okay, so for example, I'm just going to give one example, and just so you won't get like a divorce. In other words, if she's totally against divorce, instead of asking her outright, she agrees with divorce or not, ask her in a way that does not come off as a question in order to get the answer you're really looking for. So use a statement like these, and I got a couple here. So you can be the guy saying just something random like this in a conversation. My friend divorced her husband because she no longer wanted to be married. Now that's a statement, but really for you, that's a question to see what type of answer. Another one would be like, my best friend's cousin's wife divorced him because she got a job where she is now making more money. Therefore, she felt he was no longer the man or the head of the household, which a lot of American women divorce their husbands for. Depending on what type of answer, if she says something like, for example, that's pretty disgusting. Here in Africa, we don't do stuff like that. And why would you discard your man? I mean, isn't he the father of your children? That's the type of woman you want. You don't want this opportunist feminazi saying, well, I want my children, but then, if I'm going to make more money than you later on down the road, I want to divorce you. This is what you're going to get over there. So those are the types of questions you need to ask. Create your own and use it as a statement. Ask it as a statement. Okay, so that way they know it's not a question. That way they know that you're not probing them. Okay, and that will also keep the visa chasers away from you. Because you don't want somebody that just wants to come to America and then leave you because they're waiting for somebody else over there, or they just want to go to college. All right, and those ones are pretty easy to spot. So other than that, man, just go to afrointroductions.com and just start plugging away. Get rid of your Netflix account for a few months and spend it over there. And get your fucking passport. That's about it.
That's about it. Let's see what else we have going on in the chat. Let me check here. Let's see what we got also. So once again, guys, I need 104 watching people. Let's get 7 more people to like the video. 7 more likes, and it will be at 100 likes for the total video. Shout out to Black Man, Mr. Black Man. He made a video to a Nigerian woman, and then I kind of doubled back on it. It was a very good video, Mr. Black. So, you know what? Let me say this: being an African American person, and meeting the people that I met on YouTube, there was nobody. I can honestly say this about YouTube. YouTube is so powerful. I didn't have any of my friends who actually ever wanted to travel anywhere. It wasn't until I came on YouTube that I met people like Joint Power Video, people like Black Men Taking Our Community Back. Yeah, your rebuttal was great. You talking about my rebuttal or your rebuttal? Your rebuttal was excellent. People like Black Men Taking Our Community Back, people like Marcus Brown. I mean, you meet a different quality of people, man, that can give you information and you can kind of grow. I've grown so much on YouTube, man, as a person. I can honestly say that Ringo TV Wall definitely, people like that are really, really have have helped me see different things, man. Yeah, that's you, nigga. Black is night, same thing. So I thank all of you for helping me broaden my horizons, like personally, Joint Power Video. I never thought I would go to Africa. I was interested, thinking I would go one day, but I'm going. I can honestly say it's really been because of the conversations I've had about Joint Power Video. I know I've come off in years past that I didn't like Africans or I had a problem with Africans. But I think I speaking from an African-American experience dealing with Africans, they have a certain way they think about you and you about them. I don't think people like my approach, but nevertheless, you know, we're all in the same situation. I think as all Black people, I think we should try to get to know each other and try to understand the customs and people, you know, of all races, not just Black. I'm going to Uganda, Eric. So again, anything else you want to say, John Cloud?
Yeah. I'm trying to actually work with another YouTube creator called Goshen Acquisitions Limited in Kenya. One Mr. Solomon, who's the CEO of that company. His channel, it's kind of hard to tell if it's Goshen Acquisitions and own land in Kenya. But basically, he tells people exactly how to buy land in Kenya if you're ever thinking about doing it. And I think even if you don't plan to move to Kenya, but maybe somewhere else and you want to buy land, I think hearing it from an African businessman who's actually buying and selling land there and going through like the rules and the laws would be a great avenue of hearing it from somebody who's there, instead of hearing it from somebody that might be in India or the US. But I'm trying to use his videos, trying to get his permission. He contacted me today. I think he wants me to sign some type of agreement. I'm not sure. But if so, I'm going to use some of his videos if he agrees to let me do it. So that way you get an insight. Otherwise, just go to Goshen Acquisitions Limited and just watch his videos, because he's very informative. I'm going to pull the trigger to go out there, at least in Kenya anyway. Look the guy up, you know. That's
Also, if you want, man, have him reach me out. I'll give him a hangout if you want. So we can definitely do that also. So I'll be glad to work with him. But for everybody who wants to, after this chat, Minister Jap is now streaming. So you guys know what I like to do. Angry Man is streaming. I'll shut my stream down until he's done. And then now Minister Jap has a stream. Okay. All right. Shout out to Gilla. So if you guys want to check out, Minister Jap, and then maybe I might come on later on the night if Mr. Black's still on. So let's go, everybody, if you can, go to Minister Jap's channel. He's about to stream right now, so that I can support the YouTubers in that way. Thank you again, John Powell Video, for coming on. You guys go to John Powell Video, subscribe. You'll be in the description link. Thanks again, bro. I really appreciate your stream. I learned a whole lot.
No problem. And I just like to thank everybody that was watching and asking all the questions. I know I didn't get to read all of them or be able to answer them all, but much appreciated anyway. And thanks for supporting O'Shea.
Okay, cool. So everybody, let's head over to Minister Jap's channel, man. Jap's getting ready to stream. So like I said, whenever Angry Man is streaming, I won't stream and he won't stream. So Jap's getting ready to stream. I'm gonna end my stream. Let's go over and support Minister Jap. He's gonna have a good show. And thanks again, JPB. Appreciate you, everybody else. All right.
No problem. Cheers.
Cheers. Peace.